Hey, I just got up from my nap. Yeah, this is what happens when again, my granddaughter got here, guess last night about 6 and left at about 1, and I had to take a nap. Yeah. But y'all got me thinking about some stuff. And I'm going to dub this lessons or wisdom from our elders. And I'm not talking about me necessarily. I think about my grandfather. I've shared with you my grandfather was born in 1910. And as a child, I never thought about such things, if my grandfather could read or what his education level was because I was a child, and I always saw him reading the newspaper, and I always saw him with his Bible, reading his Bible. But as I look back on things, it is a possibility, not necessarily saying it's the case, but there are possibilities that many men of that time may not have been able to read, not because they weren't intelligent, but because they had to work to help take care of the family, because the opportunities for schooling in the early 1900s, late 1800s may not have been as plentiful. But my grandfather was one of the wisest men I knew. Some from me personally learning and thinking about the things, but also some from my mother sharing her experiences. Well, what do you mean? There was a time I was in elementary school, and there was, I guess, at least a year that I lived with my grandparents. I never really knew why, because I was in elementary school, but my mom later told me it's because, she had 2 kids by the time she was 19 and really she needed help. And I was the one that required, more attention because I was that's how I was it then. But at any rate, there are two semesters, 4 quarters in a year. I remember I would run home, because back then we walked to school. I would run home to my grandfather and I'd show him my report card. And he would look at it, because my grandfather was a really tall, dark, slim man. And he had this very commanding presence. He would look at it with this frown on his face. This is really good, baby, but you can do better. So this went on for several report cards until the last one. I couldn't wait to run home and show my grandfather, because I got all A's. And I ran home and I showed it to my pawpaw, and he looked there and had this little smirk of a grin on his face. And he said, "This is really good, baby, but you could do better." I was stumped. How can you do better than all A's? It wasn't until I was grown that I understood what my grandfather was telling me. He was telling me that even when you get all A's or you reach the level that you aspire to, you got to keep pushing. Never be complacent. Never settle for getting all A's, because once you achieve that goal, on to the next. Never allow yourself to become complacent and rest on your laurels. That's what he was meaning. Then a lesson I heard from my mom. Y'all saw my baby, the little video I posted of my baby with coffee. Well, when we were kids, me and my sister were kids, had to be between 5 and 6. And we were living with my mom on her own. And again, considering how old my mother was, now everything makes sense. My grandfather would come over every morning and bring us coffee milk, which is about this much coffee, this much cream and sugar, that my grandmother would prepare for us and bring over every day. Now, as a kid, we didn't care. We wanted the coffee milk because Pawpaw was bringing over coffee milk. But my mother said she later realized herself that was his way of checking on his daughter and granddaughters, coming over every day, because he knew that she didn't know what she was doing. I'm about to get misty. So if I was 6 and my mother and my mom is 17 years older than me, that means she was 23 with 2 children. And also, by the time my mom was 19, she had 2 of us, and by that time she was married. But my aunt, who lives with us, states that, because my grandfather lived in Los Angeles. We lived in Los Angeles. And at that time when my mom got married, Her and my dad, or my stepdad, they were, he was in the Army, so they were living in, I think, in Maryland. My aunt would tell me that my grandfather, and this is all before cell phones, all before whatever. And I'm trying to get the story right, but she told me that my grandfather would say he's going to the store. And by the time he got to the store or whatever, he would call my grandmother and say that he was on his way to the airport to fly to Baltimore. To fly to Baltimore. He was going to the store. And my mom said the next thing she would know, he showed up at her door on the base. Because at that time, my mom was 19 with 2 kids. And she said he would knock on the door. She opened the door and there he is. And she said, she was smoking a cigarette. My mom smoked. And she would put her cigarette out because of the reverence and deference she had for her father, even though she was grown and married. But then again, looking back in retrospect, she said, I realized my daddy was checking on me because he knew I didn't know what I was doing. And he wanted to make sure his daughter and granddaughters were okay. So see, wow, y'all got me. The wisdom of our elders. The wisdom of our elders. Y'all missing out on it. Y'all missing out on it. Because y'all think y'all know everything. You don't know anything. You can tell if somebody is critiquing you or judging you because they love you or they want to help you, or someone's just critiquing you and judging you because they want to point out fault. But you got to get to know them to find out which. You got to know them to find out which. You got to be open to find out which. And see, is this person telling me these things because I've achieved a certain level and they said, I can do better. This is good, but I can do better. Yeah, my career, whether it be I might be famous or infamous, because Kim Kardashian was infamous for her sex tape until she became famous. So let's not go there. Yeah, I got this money here, but I can go here if I do this. Or listen to somebody who's been a mother and can look at what you are doing or not doing and say, you don't know what you're doing. Let somebody help you, whether it be a mother or in your career, or in your life. I think, I was my grandfather's first grandchild, and my papa was my everything. So I'm still amazed by the wisdom and of the lessons that I learned from my own experiences or hearing from my aunt or my mom. There's some people out there who have that kind of wisdom. Y'all need to hold on to it, attach yourself to it, get as much information so you can one day pass it on. I'm grateful that I had that. And again, when I think my grandfather, born in 1910, they left Louisiana in the 40s because they had to, because they wanted to make sure first of all, that they lived, and then have a better life outside the Jim Crow South for their children. So y'all have too many opportunities, and I'm not saying everything is great because we know it ain't, but y'all got too many opportunities to have so many damn excuses. And my grandfather, there was no welfare then. Y'all have too many opportunities to have all these damn excuses. I want you to think about that. Take that with you.